Name it to tame it. Hi, welcome to Closet Confessions of a Crazy Mama. I'm Jessica, and this is my closet. This is my quiet space. I don't know about you, but for me, Halloween was stressful. So the younger children, they were so hyper because they were excited. And the teenagers were mad because I told them they were too old to go trick-or-treating, and they did not agree. And the baby, for some reason, refused to take a nap that day. Worst day to not take a nap. Maybe not the worst, but. And I was cranky. But anyway, we got dressed up in our costumes, and we went to the park for our neighborhood Halloween party. And at first I didn't realize why I was so cranky and nervous. I was just really on edge, and I was snapping at the children, and almost to the point of having like a panic attack. I was so anxious. And I thought it was just the candy. Like, I have a thing with sugar. I really don't like the kids to eat too much sugar, and I knew they were going to get too much sugar at this party because of the trunk or treat. And so I was concerned about that, and I thought that's why I was so cranky. And my husband thought that's why I was so cranky, and he kept saying, it's okay, we'll just let them eat some candy, and then we'll put it away. And that didn't help. So anyway, during this Halloween party, I had to walk back and forth between our house and the park a few times, and all of a sudden, a memory came back. I was revisiting trauma from 6 years ago, 6 Halloweens ago. But when I realized the problem, when I realized I was revisiting trauma, and I took the time to recognize that feeling, and then I told my friend about it, and she was so compassionate, and then I told my husband about it, and he was like, makes sense. And because I was able to express what I was feeling, and I figured out why I was feeling that way, I was able to process it, and then we were able to move on and have a fun Halloween evening. So Dr. Dan Siegel has coined the phrase, name it to tame it. And I think that's what happened. Like, as soon as you name an emotion, you are able to tame it. Because you have the tools, or hopefully you can have the tools to deal with that emotion when you know what it is, and you're able to name it. And often it's even better if you can find the source of the emotion. As soon as I was able to name it, I was able to tame it. And that was a blessing for our family that evening. So you're probably wondering what this past trauma from 6 Halloweens ago was. Well, the story goes like this. 6 years ago, I was 5 months pregnant with our 5th child. I was so excited to be having a baby boy. He was our second miracle baby. So in 2015, we had our three adopted children, Brigham, Rebecca, and Hiram. And then we also had Emily, who was 19 months old. And it was our neighborhood Halloween party, and my husband was out of town. So I was pushing Emily in the stroller and going back and forth between our house and the park because we'd forgotten jackets, and I think I went back and forth a couple of times. But I left my 3 older kids at the park with having a neighbor keep an eye on them, and I walked home with Emily to get jackets, and then walked back up, and I started having contractions, and they were strong enough I had to stop and breathe through them, and I couldn't just not go back to the park because my kids were there, and it was getting dark, and I had their jackets, and I didn't really have a way to get a hold of my neighbor anyway. So I just kept going. I walked up to the park, and I had to walk all over the park to keep track of the children because they were everywhere. But then those contractions were the start of my preterm labor that 2.5 weeks later ended in Matthew being born prematurely and passing away. as you can see, that's bringing up some trauma. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but I'm getting a little bit emotional. So that was the trauma that I had been unaware of, I guess, at the moment on Halloween. In fact, all the past Halloweens, I hadn't realized why Halloween was so hard. I figured it was the sugar. But this year I dressed up in the same pioneer dress costume that I had wore that night 6 years ago. I was pushing a baby in a stroller, Joyanna, back and forth to and from the park, and all flooded back. And I was able to realize what's going on. And I remember last year our Halloween party was canceled because of the COVID pandemic, and I was so relieved, and I didn't know why. Again, I think I thought it was the sugar, like, whew, we don't have to worry about sugar overloads. But there was trauma behind that relief. So now that I've figured it out, I can be more prepared to handle it next time. Name it to tame it really does work. Anyway, speaking of name it to tame it, on a lighter note, my 2-year-old is starting to learn how to label his emotions, and he was outside a couple days ago wanting to do something with a pumpkin, and I couldn't understand what he was wanting to do. I was trying to get inside so I could feed the baby and get her down for her nap. And so I was trying to get him to come inside, and he just stood there on the porch, folded his little arms and said, "Mad!" And that was the first time he'd used that word. But once he was able to say that he was mad, then he and I both were able to process that and work through it. And then we were able to move on. So name it to tame it really does work. Try it out with yourself or with your children or your friends. When you name an emotion, then you have the tools to handle it better. So there's a card right here of Dan Siegel's. He just has a little short explanation about Name It to Tame It. He explains much better than I am. Name it to tame it.